Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Middle and High School Course Professional Learning Community on the Georgia Department of Education platform. This platform was created for educators to collect, collaborate, and support one another. Be sure to set up your notifications to your liking and check back to engage in discussion as often as you wish. Please share this platform with your colleagues so we may continue to grow and share beneficial information specific to middle and high school choral education. The more colleagues active yields more opportunities for us to share and grow from one another. My name is Brandy Dent, and I will be your virtual PLC lead for middle and high school chorus. So, Webinar 7 has been all about learning how to make your classroom positive. We've gone over in Webinar A. If you haven't yet, be sure to check that out. It's all about building leadership amongst your students. And Webinar B is all about building relationships. Stay tuned for Webinar C, which will come next with about preparing for the fall. So again, we'll talk about leadership, building relationships, and how to put it all together to prepare for the fall. But for right now, our focus is on building relationships. So, there are two different ways that you can build relationships among students. You need to build student relationships, student to student, and you also need to build relationships from student to teacher. Some ways that I know in particular is just a simple turn and talk. If you've taught a lesson, or maybe it's the beginning of classroom, you want to have students give students the time and opportunity to get to know each other or to get to bounce off ideas to one another, simply take a few minutes out of your lesson, set a timer, and have them literally turn and talk. It may be about some material you just went over, or it may just be about a particular information in a piece. A greeting seat. This is something that you can do at the beginning of class. It could also be something that you do during restroom break, where you literally have the students get up and go greet someone else. It may be someone on another voice part. It may be someone on another row, someone with a different color dot. Depends on however you've decided to categorize your classroom, but a greeting seat gives students an opportunity to talk to one another, and it also gives you a moment to get to know a student. So you should also be a part of that. Sectional practices. If you have your students divided by parts, either it be voice parts or just sections, give them a moment to work together. See it as a group project, if you will. Have an idea in mind, but give them an opportunity for you to have a student to lead, or maybe a student be in charge, and mix it up a little bit. It gives them time to get to grow from one another and to learn who they are. You want to make sure that they're doing that so that they can build those relationships. And of course, not just sectional practices, but you might have a group activity. It may be where students needs to review rhythm together. Maybe they're working on a sight reading piece. Maybe they're doing a composition. Maybe you're working with the students that need a little bit more reteaching while the other ones are moving on to something else. But this is a great way for those students to get that interaction. Again, you as the choral director, we don't want to get caught in front of the classroom the entire class period. You want to give them time to be able to grow from one another, just like we're doing now. And lastly, what about extracurricular? You may have some students that are staying after school because they're learning their all-state music or their district honor choir music. You may have a small group that you have that are going to do a certain solo for you somewhere. Whatever the case, if you're doing something extracurricular and after school, they're going to definitely build relationships among each other. Um, Student teacher. My easiest way to get to know my students is in my greeting. When I'm standing at the door, I'm able to see every single face walk in. I can tell if something's going on. I can tell if a child is super happy about something. I find out about whose birthday it is today. There's just so much that you can catch right at the door about a student. So greet them, compliment an outfit, do something to build those relationships. You also can learn a lot through a ticket out the door. Maybe you've gone over a lesson and you have just one quick question that you got to ask the students before they leave. Stand at the doorway, get those answers. It's your way not only to learn things about your students, but to see who needs to get reteaching. So try that type of thing. That will build some relationships. I learned this in my educational specialist program at Piedmont University. One of my professors started our class off with "Tell me something good." Now, I probably wouldn't sing the song in front of middle school or high school kids, but such a catchy phrase. Tell me something good. Maybe you want to take a few minutes at the beginning of class or right after restroom break or after lunch. Have them share some things that are going on in their lives. Kids love to talk, and if you give them the opportunity to do so, they're going to make sure that you don't forget. So, this is a way to find out a lot about your kids. Another way are one on ones. At the beginning, middle, and end of the year, I try my best to have a focused time for me to meet with my students. It may be where all the other kids may have on their headphones and they're working on listening or sight reading or learning a piece. And I will pull up maybe 5 or 6 students per class, per day, I should say. And we discuss their progress in my class. It may be their grades, it may be their progress on reading, it may be on their rhythm, it may be on anything that I see that we need to discuss. It gives them the opportunity to get to know me personally, and it gives me the opportunity to just talk to them and see if they have any questions. Maybe they were afraid to ask in front of the class. And even with the students after school, you get to kind of build those relationships. You learned a lot about their parents, you learn a lot about how committed they are to your program, and sometimes you learn a little bit more than you asked for. But those extracurricular times after school, especially, gives them an opportunity to see you outside the classroom, and the same for you. I know one quick story when we went to All-State Chorus. This was back when we were going to Savannah, and I had a student share with the class, "I got to see Miss Dent with the bonnet on." And it didn't mean much to me, of course, but just that moment that she was able to see that I am a human being and I do wrap up my hair at night, it made her day, and she wanted to share it with the class when we got back. So see those moments that you have with your students as just ways to learn who they are. And of course, come up with relatable activities. Like if students in your class, after you do that wonderful student inventory at the beginning of the year, when you find out what they do for their pastimes or what type of music they listen to, come up with an activity or find an activity online that might be suitable for your class. So I'm going to click on this, and you're able to see an activity that I found simply online by searching one day.
Creating harmonies from TikTok sounds.
And notice there's a student doing a TikTok dance while they're singing. So once again, building relationship is not just about talking to the students. Sometimes they just want to know that you are into some of the same things that they are, or you'll find a way to do so. These are just some teacher tips that I think will help you in your future as you learn to build those relationships. Know your students. Look for their responses. Look at how their faces react when you say certain things. If you're giving them a lecture, for example, if you see a student that seems a little bit out of it or disoriented, you might want to talk to them at the end of class. Again, your way of getting to know your students is to figure out who they are in just about every situation that you face throughout the year. So do those student surveys at the beginning of the year. Find out what they like, what they don't like, and continue to learn them. Another thing is be inviting. Your body language means so much more than you think. If they see that you're down, it's going to make them down. If they see that you're angry about something, it may make them anxious about things. So make sure that you are as inviting as you can be for your students, because you might be that bright spot of their day. You're the only outlet that some of them may have. So make sure that you check yourself at the door and encourage them to do the same. Allow your classroom to be the place where they feel safe, where they feel that they can share things without having to worry about being judged. So continue to be inviting. Another way is to involve your students in decision making. It may be that you're having a hard time picking out a piece or picking out what activity you want to do the next day. Ask the students. They love to give their input. If you narrow it down to maybe two pieces for a large group performance evaluation, see if you can find a recording of both and allow the students to vote. You may learn both, but it might be the day of large group performance where you might have to change things and go with the other piece. So always involve your students in helping you make decisions. It's also their choir, it's also their class. So make them feel important. So give them the opportunity to talk about things with you. Another thing I've learned as being a chorus teacher, especially, is use humor. If there's something funny that you saw that's appropriate to share with your students, do so, especially if it's fitting for what's going on in your classroom at that time. Every lesson plan cannot be perfect. It can take a little bit of variation and it can change every year. We're in an ever changing world. And that reminds me of the next step: remove egos. If you have a student that's challenging you, they're asking questions that you may not know the answer to, or if you have a particular piece that you really wanted to do and your students just don't like it, even if they've learned it, it's okay. Sometimes everyone is not meant to agree with us. So just make sure that you don't take every single thing personally. It's sometimes just based on opinion. That's what music is. So, and in the process of that, be encouraging. If your students are having a rough day reading this particular piece, or they're having a trouble learning how to do a skip 1 to 4, encourage them. That's what a coach does. You're not only just a course teacher, you're coaching them to do better each and every time. That's why we rehearse. That's why we're in the classroom going over things, because we have to teach them to mess up and try again. If you don't succeed this time, dust yourself off, do it again. And so you can't get angry. You can't get so bogged down on they made a mistake, they did it again, that you can't be their cheerleader. So continue to do that. Use words like great job and be inspiring. Students want to know that you see it as an awe moment just like they do. If it was a great moment, go with it. Be happy with the happy moments that you have in your class. Look at the lyrics, look at the text, break it down with your students and help them know why you're going so hard for them to give this big crescendo at the end. Give them a backstory so that they can understand why the music that you're doing matters. And of course, don't be afraid to switch things up. If you're used to um, doing a particular traditional piece every year because it was something that your course teacher did, you might have to leave it alone and leave it back in the past if it's not working anymore. So you just have to learn to be flexible yourself, and that helps you with your students. Remember that they love you and they like you. Even if they don't agree with you all the time, you're pretty awesome because you chose this job and you're doing it. So continue to encourage yourself and know that you rock as well. There are two particular credits that I want to give credit to, and that's the inspirededucator.com, where I found those relationship building activities, as well as barbershop.org. They have so many materials that are beneficial for educators. So, again, thank you for tuning in. And don't forget, we have webinar C coming up.